All right. Sorry, I had to let my uh, computer catch up. So today we're going to be going over the combat vets, more about uh, PTSD. We're going to talk a little bit about self help, taking care of yourself. Um, I will be doing a test review video, hopefully tomorrow, maybe Saturday, uh, and either tomorrow or Saturday, I will be doing a Zoom conference deal. So to see if y'all have any questions over anything, uh, and then I have the final. I'm putting it in the computer to the online format, uh, and so we will have. I'll do a final review video so that maybe, and I'll also do at least one, if not two or three, Zoom conference deals so that y'all can have questions because it's over all the chapters. So, but that more to come on that. So, like I said, or I think I said it, but I've got a couple videos in here. If depending on how long this video is, I might go back and watch them. There's one of them that I really like to watch. I don't know how it will record on this, uh, but if it doesn't record and y'all want to watch them, uh, shoot me a email, and I will forward the links to you. Let's do my mouse back. There we go. All right, so I already kind of went over what we're going to go over. Combat vets make up 1% of the population. Uh, it's PTSD can affect anybody. It can affect anybody going through or been through trauma. Um, a the PTSD bottom line is it's something that gets in the way that affects everyday life. Here's some stats. These numbers are a little low. All the stats in this slideshow haven't been updated yet. I just haven't had time. I usually update about once a year because they change. They're constantly changing. But 25% of just adults have behavioral issues. 7.8 have PTSD. 11 to 20% of vets have PTSD, some sort of behavioral problem, and 30+% of first responders have PTSD. And think about that and think about why uh, the difference between first responders and vets. And I've had a lot of vets tell me this is that a vet, when they go to combat or whatever, they when they're in country for a long time, and when they come home, they're done with it. They live it day in, day out for 6 months, a year, however long their deployment is, or their enlistment, and then when they come home, they're done with it. Now they still have to deal with stuff afterwards, the aftermath, but they're out of a new traumatic experience every day, all day. Well, with us, where it lands with us is that uh, we go to it every third day, or if you work a 12-hour truck, it's every day, Uh, so that's what they tell me. This is coming straight from uh, the Iraq War combat vets, Afghanistan War combat vets. Talked to a lot of them, and that's what they tell me, and that's what that's how they see the difference. So a little bit about a stress response. And stress response, uh, it's think about fight or flight. That's what's happening. You're dumping your epi and norepi. You're getting ready to either run or fight. Something's going on. And in PTSD, uh, you're you're staying real real high up here. And then, like for us, when we go to work, we're maintaining a pretty high level, and then we have a call and we spike up and we come back down, but we don't come back down to a chill level. We're still up here at a heightened level, and all day, every day. And then when you get off and you're driving home, and typically about, for me, it's whenever I turn on my road, I have what happens, what we call a parasympathetic dump. It's when just all those endorphins and everything that's kept you real high just dump out, and you basically crash. It's very important to go home and take a nap. That's something that is very, very important. So keep that in mind. So PTSD and the combat veterans, they're different from each war. So World War II, you might not see it near as much, or you see it in a different way. Vietnam's the ones that have it real bad right now. That's when we really started seeing it and really started trying to research it. And, it's just kind of evolved from there. Each veteran, each person, it affects them differently. They have their own different ways of dealing with it, how it affects them, what happens to them, those sort of things. So I do a lot of work outside of here and outside of the fire department with first responders and combat and veterans, combat and non-combat, through the block and 22 kill. So some of the things I've learned is some of the things, be careful what you say. I've run a lot of veteran population patients, and I talk to them a lot, and that's kind of how I've learned too. But I never ask about combat. I never ask about, the only thing I might ask is how long they were in country. Hey, did you deploy? Yeah, how long were you in country? And I like saying that better than where did you see combat, instead of did you see combat. I don't like that verbiage. And do not ever ask if they've killed somebody. If they want you to know, they'll tell you. So 2/3 of our combat vets have relationship issues when they return. 2/3 have PTSD. See how those kind of go hand in hand. And it's actually more than 25% now are homeless. PTSD is a collection of signs. So you have PTS and then PTSD. And some people also call it PTSI, that it's a injury instead of a disease. Same thing. But PTS is before you get to the diagnosis. So typically there's about 5 things that they have to have to qualify for PTSD. And PTS is when you have a bad call or something where you just have trouble dealing with it, but it gets better every day. Or after a while, it gets better. And then PTSD is where after like a month, you're still it takes a month to diagnose, at least. And then you're still having night terrors. It's affecting your day-to-day life. You can't function. You think about it constantly. That's when you move into the PTSD or PTSI and get the diagnosis. A good way I kind of mentioned it at the beginning, but this saying is a really good one that helped me understand it and normalize PTSD and make it where it makes sense to me. But PTSD is a reaction of a normal person to an abnormal situation. So, it's all those signs and symptoms. It's all those feelings. It's an abnormal reaction of a normal person to abnormal situation, or however you want to say it. But sorry to muddy the water, but it's how people react and how it affects them. Kind of already went over that. So they can have feelings of anger, fear, helplessness, flashbacks, nightmares, night terrors, night sweats, avoiding things that remind them of them. I know people that have run bad calls, and they'll go out of the way to drive around that street where the call was, or whatever. Here's some more signs and symptoms. Some physical responses include pain, premature aging, very high use of drug and alcohol. 40% of veterans engage in that. And denial is a very common deal. A heightened CNS. It's where they're on edge all the time. I've heard of a first responder who was involved in a really, really bad call, and he would get up every hour on the hour and go check all of his doors. So he was not getting any sleep. So sometimes they can be a danger to themselves or others. Their suicide rate is 30% higher than that of other veterans. I think the number's gone up to 23 now, but the stat is 22 vets a day commit suicide. That number's still growing. So there's a lot of organizations that we're doing everything we can to try to stop that, to try to lower that number the best we can. So there's also some, how do I say this? There's a difference between PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. A traumatic brain injury is a alteration in brain function from an external force. I don't have time to go into it now, but with PTSD, there is a change in the brain that they have found, and they can prove it. Our peer support doctor at work is the one that has given me that information. I've talked to a lot about it. But just know that you can have a traumatic brain injury and PTSD at the same time, which is what this talks about. Some of their signs and symptoms overlap. Most of the traumatic brain injuries have been diagnosed, but they do get missed. Here's a chart. This is in your book, 41-1. So, like I said, don't ever ask anybody if they've killed somebody. Provide limits. Don't let them run over you. Remind them that you're here to help. Stay calm. Stay firm. Stand your ground. If you haven't seen combat, don't tell them that you understand what they're going through. Establish a good rapport and let them do the talking. Don't try to fish for information. So they might be a little reluctant to seek help. Don't assume that they have PTSD. Ask about weapons because you want to make sure everything's safe. So keep the noise down. Don't bang anything. Explain them what you're doing. Diesel fumes and helicopter jet fuel can be triggers. Keep that in mind. Veterans and first responders, our careers, our group have a lot of trouble asking for help. It's hard to ask for help because of the stigma that has been associated with our careers, us. And I'll tell you now, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help, and it's important that you do. And take time to listen to the patient. You can really learn a lot And sometimes, especially the older vets, they just want somebody to talk to, because a lot of people might not understand. And I see a lot of people brush off our veteran community, and it kind of really makes me mad. So PTSD is an intense emotional and physical response to abnormal trauma. Be sure to be careful how you approach it. Always, always, always be respectful. Give them the respect they've earned. You can't have traumatic brain injuries. The signs and symptoms can overlap. And always take time to listen. Listen to their concerns. Listen to what's going on. Try to help them. Do your best to better them. They've given their time, their life. They've given at least 4 years of their life to make sure that we're able to do this. We're able to take this class. I'm able to make this video. So they've earned your respect. And you should definitely give it to them. So as far as us, we're going to change gears a little bit. Here are some numbers, and again, they're not updated, but our field, our work, we're more likely to die from suicide than from a line of duty death. Again, these numbers are all growing. They have changed, but last we checked, there was 114 suicides, and I know that's gone up. I can't remember. I haven't looked yet to see what it actually is for since 2019 ended, but I know it's higher than that. So, and we had a small little drop off, but we're starting to climb back up. So, break the stigma, ask for help. We've got help. I've got many resources. I've been to it, and it took me a long time, but I finally did it after I talked to a bunch of veterans and other first responders that have gotten help. So it's out there, and people care about us, and it's starting to make the news, and they want to help. So a little bit, burnout, it's a real deal. You have to take time for yourself. You have to build resilience. You have to, and I'm bad about this, about taking on too much of something, too much stuff, too much on my plate. You have to have a good balance. You have to find things that you enjoy and make sure you do them. If you like going to the gym, put an hour out of your time to go to the gym. If you like driving fire trucks, go join a volunteer fire department and, take time to go up there and work on them and be there to respond to calls. And, if you're allowed to, drive them around the block and come back. Whatever it is, if you like reading, meditating, whatever, take time to do those things. It's super important. And resiliency is, like I said, keep doing the things you enjoy. You have to get sleep. We work crazy hours, which jacks up our sleep cycle. You have to set boundaries. You have to be able to say no. That is my biggest issue, is I don't know how to say no. Avoid self-medication. Avoid alcohol. I'm not telling you not to drink. I drink. I smoke cigars from time to time. I enjoy it, and I do it from time to time. But I'm very careful about how many I smoke. Maybe one a week. So if you need help, get help. Reach out. I'm here. Here's just some of the resources I have. Here's my phone number. Here's my nonprofit email. You can use my school email. My school email does not come to my phone, so I won't see it until I log on and check my school email. But the Block Foundation one does come to my phone. Day or night, call me. If it's like 3 a.m., you might have to call me a few times. And if it's 3 a.m., don't text me, call me, because my text message does not wake me up. And probably my wife will wake up, and then she will tell me, hey, your phone's ringing. So just bear with me on it. So here's a video. We're at 20 minutes. I'll play it if, let's see. Actually, let's watch this one. If y'all want to go back, if y'all want to watch these videos, this one's on Fire Department Chronicles. He's talking about suicide and how it's affected him. It's well worth the watch. This one's a friend of mine, real good friend of mine. He started the Dallas Peer Support Program. Him and his family are very close friends, and he is my go-to guy for anything mental health. He knows it all. So let's see if I can get it to play. Well, it won't play for some reason. I don't know why, but just here we go.
My name's Casey Ellsworth. I've been a Dallas firefighter for 10 years. As I started growing up, I got to hang out at the fire station a little bit, and I saw kind of the family dynamic behind it. That's something I didn't have as a kid. I didn't know who my dad was until I was 17 years old. You know, as I got older and would talk to more and more firefighters, they would tell me about the brotherhood, so I just felt like, you know, it'd fill the gap that was missing.
It's just ingrained in you when you have a family member that's in the fire service. It's not just a job. It really is a part of your life, a part of their life, part of your kids' lives. It's really a lot about trust and trusting that he is trained well and he knows what he's doing, and trusting the guys that he works with and that they know what they're doing and that they're going to protect each other. I wouldn't say that there was any certain big changes. It was really more of things that were already in him that got bigger.
It doesn't necessarily matter if it's, you know, a bad car wreck or somebody burns up in a fire. When we get back to the fire station, a lot of guys come back and they'll want to call home and talk to their kids. Others you'll think nothing ever happened. For me personally, it doesn't become real or apparent until the next morning, or even sometimes the next couple days, that it actually starts to make sense to me that, oh, maybe a child is now living without their parent. I also felt that I couldn't let the officers or the other people know if anything ever did bother me. We just kind of stuff it down and we move on. Now we have the stressors from the job and all the other things that come with that on top of it, and we're confused and we don't understand why.
He's quick to anger, I wouldn't say, but he became that way for a while after getting on the job.
Everything we do in the fire department we train for, except for retirement and mental health. And so really, I just looked at counseling as another form of training. They teach us where our thoughts or emotions are coming from and how to mitigate those as they come up. What I learned was from the therapist, I'm more than likely to develop post-traumatic stress as a child. And so what I've learned is I cut my emotions off.
Seeing the change in him and how it helped him really made me think that it can really benefit anyone. You know, it's not just for your job, it's for your marriage, for your kids, for your friendships, for all of it.
All right, so that's the end of it. I'm going to finish up making these videos, and I'll post them, and then I will send out the link for the Zoom meeting, whether it's going to be tomorrow or Saturday. I'm on shift Saturday, so I don't know if we're going to do it then. I tend not to like to do that where I might get a call. But I've got a lot of work to do tomorrow, so we'll kind of see how it goes, okay? Again, y'all have my phone number, my email. If you need anything, call, text, or email.